right, Jamie. We're going to stick with climate change, right? That's what we've been talking about. That's what we've been doing. That's the lowdown.
You got it. It's hot outside. Lay it on me.
It's hot outside and it's hot on the presses, right? It's hot. It's hot news. I mean, here's the thing: we're doing climate change, but I feel like every time we do climate change, the media does climate change.
I like to think we are definitely blazing trails here. No pun intended.
I'm not gonna lie.
We're leading the pack.
Well, I mean, the Elon thing was pretty good when we talked about him being a supervillain long before the New York Times did their fancy little graph showing all the satellites
he has
orbiting the globe.
There have been a few things that, you'll send me an article or a few, or we'll see something, and we're like, we did a pod on that like 3 months ago.
Not to toot our own horn, listener.
Not to toot our own horn, folks. Just to let you know. Tell a friend.
But
you want the news first, you come to us.
Toot toot. Little toot toot. Toot toot. So the Zootopia reference. Heat is costing the U.S. economy billions in lost productivity. This was an article on the Times. All right, they're starting to address a little bit how the heat is starting to impact the economy, which is something that we probably could talk about every day, all day, every year at this point. But goes triple-digit days in Orlando. Utility crews are postponing checks for gas leaks since digging outdoors dressed in heavy safety gear could endanger their lives. In Michigan, on the nation's northern border, construction crews are working shortened days because of heat. Climate change has raised the Earth's temperature to the highest levels in recorded history. Projections show that they will only climb further. Extreme heat is regularly affecting workers beyond expected industries like agriculture and construction. Sizzling temperatures are causing problems for those who work in factories, warehouses, and restaurants, and also for employees of airlines and telecommunication firms, delivery services, and energy companies. Even home health aides are running into trouble. I don't know if you heard about the most recent UPS, not United States Postal Service, but the guys in the brown trucks.
And don't confuse UPS with USPS, folks.
Never.
UPS.
Never. One is a stalwart industry, bastion of U.S. ingenuity. The Patriot. The mail. JB knows what I'm talking about. You know what I'm putting down with that. The other Patriots is a corporate grab bag that's trying to be used as a scapegoat to get rid of that backbone of American industry, the United States Postal Service. Don't you guys forget it. Support your local branch. Anyway, here's the thing. These guys, they threatened to go on strike, the UPS. Do you remember do you know what they were striking over? What they were striking over.
Wasn't it that it was hot and they were asking people to spray them with hoses? Is that the thing?
Yeah, they were asking people to spray with hoses because the company was like, we are not going to install air conditioning in your trucks.
I just assumed it broke. They actually don't have them.
They don't have them. They didn't have them. And the
That's
company,
weird.
and they were like, "Screw you guys."
I mean, it's hotter now, but like it's been hot before. They've been
been
toughing it out the whole time.
Yeah, they've been toughing it out the whole time. Yeah, these guys are. I mean, look. These guys are. There's something to they're. They got brass. They got brass. If you see a worker out there doing deliveries, you should offer them a bottle of water if you can, but or you should salute them because that's a warrior in this kind of heat going out there to deliver these packages. Amazon.
Why would they do that?
What do you mean? Why would they do that? Deliver?
I don't know.
The company? Why did they?
Yeah, why wouldn't they put air conditioning in?
Because
that's crazy.
Because they said it would cut into their bottom line. It would be too expensive to put air
conditioning.
That's
right. It would.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe you should do something a little more humane as opposed to watch. You know what else cuts into your bottom line? Dying workers. I'll tell you, dying workers also cuts into your bottom line. So
apparently not if you hire children. I mean, let's hope they don't get wind of that.
All I'm saying is that they struck. They threatened to go on strike, and the company caved because the workers were going to walk off the job. And workers have power in certain industries, especially if you unite. So unite the clans. Unite the clans.
Wow. And UPS doesn't have a union, I guess.
I mean, you're saying
they're striking, so
they're
just wow.
I think they look,
so they organized to that degree because it's been so bad.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I do believe that's exactly what happened. I didn't hear anything. I mean, I read reports on it. No one mentioned a union that I saw, so I could be incorrect about that. But
how does the word spread? That's kind of nuts. I guess they have like a Facebook page or something.
I hate that you caught me out on that. I don't remember hearing about a union for UPS. I feel like that would have been the first thing you would have read is that the union is try to strike a deal with regard to this, and then just like the writers union, you hear about the union
Yeah.
first. The fact that I just heard about the workers, I assumed it was just the workers. I only heard about the workers coming together to do this. I'm going to keep going. You double check me on that, and we'll circle back. Okay. A study published in June on the effects of temperature on productivity concludes that while extreme heat harms agriculture, its impact is greater on industrial and other sectors of the economy, in part because they are more labor intensive. It finds that heat increases absenteeism and reduces work hours, and concludes that as the planet continues to warm, those losses will increase.
UPS does have a union, the Teamsters.
Okay.
It's the largest private collecting bargaining agreement in North America.
I've heard of the Teamsters. I didn't realize that was their union. Okay, so
is that the Jimmy Hoffa thing? Is that Jimmy Hoffa?
They are famous. The Teamsters are famous for a reason, or at least infamous. But that's good. That's good to know. I'm glad that I didn't go out there.
The Teamsters, it's Jimmy Hoffa. I don't know much about him other than
he's related. He's has some sort of connection to the Teamsters. Well, anyway, in either case, I'm glad that you checked that out. I'm glad that we did spread.
Now we'll make informed comments going forward.
In 2021, more than 2.5 billion hours of labor in the U.S. agriculture, construction, manufacturing, and services sectors were lost to heat exposure. In 2020, the loss of labor as a result of heat exposure cost the economy about $100 billion, a figure projected to grow to $500 billion annually by 2050.
And somehow they're still profitable.
Well, companies
you're saying this is the losses.
These are the losses that we are experiencing as a nation. As a country, we are experiencing these losses based on a study that was conducted, and the projection of such losses will get to about $500 billion every year at some point between now and 2050.
I cannot help but think of a previous segment we did with those children, those 12-year-olds working the agriculture fields, the tobacco fields in North Carolina. Yeah. With no protections, they're getting poisoned.
Can't even imagine.
Limited hours.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That's man, that's tragic.
Yeah. Don't worry, because Republicans across the nation are literally just pushing child work bills down the throats of their legislature. So
yeah, just if you don't believe us, folks, check out Arkansas. Just my God, Google Arkansas.
It's not even Arkansas anymore. I mean, yeah, it's exploding. For some reason, I didn't realize that there was such a shortage of labor, to the point with the fact that there are so many unemployment rate, and everyone's talking about high inflation, and corporatists are complaining about this, that, and that, about recession coming and pending, and got to make cuts. But apparently, there's enough free labor. There's enough work out there that children, if they enter the workforce, will help out these corporations to achieve their profit goals. That somehow that's the end sum. That's the ultimate goal, is that if we get the kids out there, this nation could become once again its great self. Similar to like Newsies. I mean, if anyone's ever seen Newsies, I mean, that's a fantastic movie that's all about the joys of child labor. They sing, they dance. They're so happy to be selling those newspapers in the street. They don't want to go to school. They don't want education. They don't want purpose. They want to sell the news. It's fantastic. It's great.
There's no argument for me.
No. Everyone should check it out. Newsies. Fantastic movie.
Let's just get back into it where labor. You just keep producing kids to get out there and work.
Other research found that as the mercury reaches 90 degrees Fahrenheit, productivity slumps by about 25%. And when it goes past 100 degrees, productivity drops off by 70%. That's, I think, a crazy stat, because we talked last episode, or at least an episode before that, about
it's because the managers were like, it's too hot, I'm not going out there to yell at them.
That's part of it.
They don't want to come out of their office. They have the only fan
air conditioning, because they've got the air conditioning, and they don't want
the only fan in the building.
I was saying that if we go back to a previous segment that we did, we talked about how the heat in Phoenix gets to about 110. And I mean, you could only imagine what is the what's the productivity at that point for a city and workers if this heat is around 110 degrees? I mean, I know that Phoenix has resorted to doing majority of its construction work at night, and a lot of industry
that's a great home life.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. You sit at home during the day in your air conditioning, I suppose, while your kids are off at school in their air conditioning, and then when they get home, you go to work because now it's finally now it's cool enough that you can now do your job. So it must be great. It must be absolutely fantastic. It must be what a great home life. All that being said, there are still, and this is not going to be a surprise to anyone who knows this great nation, there are still no national regulations to protect workers from extreme heat. In 2021, the Biden administration announced that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration would propose the first rule designed to protect workers from heat exposure. But 2 years later, the agency still has not released a draft. A draft, people. They haven't released a draft of the proposed regulation.
That is really sad. It's funny because I remember one of my first jobs, the power went out during the summer and we had to wear a suit and it was hot.
Yeah.
And we were all like threatening, like, we're talking amongst ourselves. This is ridiculous. We're going to walk out. Like, he should be sending us home. How could he expect us to work under these conditions? And it was probably like 85 degrees or something in the office, not 110, not outside, not doing manual labor.
Right.
And it was appalling. And we looked it up and we're like, wow, there's no thing for us. Like, we had nothing. We had nothing to go on.
No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save you.
There is no leverage. There is no threat to make. We are stuck here. And glad to see that it hasn't changed, and glad to see it could be so much worse and nothing can be done. That is horrific. And I'm still racking my brain over that 70% number. Would you say over 110, productivity drops by 70%?
That's correct. Yeah. According to most studies. Yeah.
I mean, at that point, are you just burning money on utilities?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You might as well just send everyone home. Yeah. There's no point. You're getting 30% productivity at that point. I mean, you're probably spending more in terms of trying to keep the lights on or trying to fight the heat with air conditioning. You might as well just send everyone home. Absolutely.
Are we that greedy?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Wow.
Yes. In fact, the main thing, your manager in that situation, the biggest mistake they made was that they allowed you guys to sit too closely so that you could chat amongst each other. That's how they.
The hotter it gets, the more they space us out.
You got to keep a minimum distance of your workers, and then you got to walk the aisles. You got to walk the aisles to make sure that there is no, there's no chitter chatter, there's no jibber jabber between them. Because if people get together and they start realizing they have more in common than they do apart, that's how unions get started, and we don't want that in this country. We really do not want that. We don't want unionizing. We don't want workers to feel empowered. That's bad for the economy. It's bad for the workers because they don't know any better. And they don't realize it. They don't realize that getting air conditioning and having dignity and feeling valued is really bad for your self-esteem. Ultimately, you want to feel powerless, and you want to feel like your employer is sucking the life out of you. That's the only way you're going to feel.
You feel alive.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the only way
to
you're
live
feel alive.
Is to suffer, or is it to suffer is to live? I don't know if that's a thing.
How puritanical. So yeah, it's so through suffering you will find your salvation. Right? That should be. In fact, Bezos, I'm sure he probably that's what gets.
It's written on every steering wheel of an Amazon delivery truck.
I believe it. When in fact, the pee bottle they hand out to you, that's inscribed on the side. That's exactly
great.
Right. You're right.
That's great.
That's right. 7 states have some form of labor protection dealing with heat, but there has been a push to roll them back in some places. In June, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas signed a law that eliminated rules set by municipalities that mandated water breaks for construction workers. Even though Texas leads all states in terms of lost productivity linked to heat, according to an analysis of the federal data conducted by Vivid Economics. Oh, why are they doing that? Oh,
well,
it's right here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I clearly the construction companies are the ones that want this, but I mean, is this stuff talked about, or is it done behind closed doors? Because how do you pitch that to people and they're like, yeah, that sounds right. Eliminate water breaks. Like,
Well, yeah,
How do people rally around that? Or
because
is
they
it
don't
just
want
done and
those
no one knows? Or does nobody know?
freeloading construction workers working out of the heat. They don't want them
Why
taking
is this
advantage
road
of
taking
these.
so long? Why is this road taking so long?
JB,
Look at those guys sitting on those cones not doing anything.
exactly. We don't
When
hurt
I
the
happen
job
to drive down,
creators.
how dare you rest while I drive by?
Don't hurt the job creators. Do no harm to those job creators. Every time you shed a tear. You see a construction worker taking a water break, and you think about that
Every
massive.
day, I drive by this construction site at 12 p.m. on my way to lunch, and they're on break too.
That's right.
How
How
dare
dare
they?
they? How dare
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
Business groups are opposed to a national standard, saying it would be too expensive because it would likely require rest, water, and shade breaks, and possibly the installation of air conditioning.
Those are all offensive things. I can't believe they're even asking for them.
They can't afford them. They can't afford it.
Who in their right minds would ever give a person shade and water? I can't believe it. Don't even get me started on air conditioning, but shade and water, it's a bridge too far.
I'm going to give you now two examples before I wrap this segment up. Okay. These are two good examples of what's going on. The National Beef Slaughterhouse in Dodge City, Kansas, where temperatures are expected to hover above 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the next week, is cooled by fans, not air conditioning. Workers wear heavy protective aprons and helmets and use water vats and hoses heated to 180 degrees to sanitize their equipment. It's always been hot work, but this year is different. One worker who asked not to be identified for fear of retribution. The heat inside the slaughterhouse is intense, drenching employees in sweat and making it hard to get through a shift. National Beef did not respond to this email. A union representative for meatpacking and food processing in Kansas, Missouri, and Ohio said sweltering conditions present a risk for food contamination. After workers skin a hide, they need to ensure that debris doesn't get on the meat or carcass. But when it's extremely hot and their safety glasses fog up, their vision is impaired and they are exhausted. They can't even see what they're doing.
So this is like, but again, that's only at risk to our health, not productivity, not pumping out a product.
Well, no.
If the quality goes down, I mean, I guess you're at risk of a recall.
Well, there you go, which could cost you. Yeah, but maybe you're probably the either the expense of the fines associated with having to deal with a recall, for like in terms of what the government retribution might be, the profitability must outweigh whatever you could possibly incur in terms of fines, which again is always one of those things where we're like, it's good to be here. It's good to be a corporation in the land of the free, because ultimately you really can do whatever you want because the recourse is of so little consequence that you might as well ignore it completely, which essentially was probably going to happen here. But that's the thing. I thought this was such a good example because it shows how it's one thing if you feel bad for a construction worker on the side of the road or these beef workers who are working with 180 degree equipment in 100-degree heat. You're like, this is awful. This shouldn't be happening. But at the end of the day,
they're dying.
At the end of the day, yeah, crazy. well, they're dying. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, people like to think close to home. And at the end of the day, if they can't do their job properly and you're a meat lover, you're out there grilling your meats for the barbecue this 4th of July. In front
of your grill, it's not so bad.
Well, it's
hot. It's hot in front of the grill. It's not so bad.
God bless the guys who man the grill. Whoever mans the grill, gals, guys, whatever. God bless you in these summers. But at the end of the day, if you're dealing with contaminated meat, that's a risk to your health. That's a risk to the everyday everyone listening to this pod who lives in this country. If you eat meat, there is a tangible risk now that you are going to be facing as the temperature continues to climb, and it's going to get greater. It's going to be a greater, basically, increase to this risk for you that the meat might get contaminated and you will get sick. And some people die from certain types of food poisoning.
You should have,
and I'm just saying, it's a real risk.
You should have. I'm on this label kick. We started with the guns, and then what did we do last time with I think it was with climate, carcinogens. We're always talking about these different labels. I want for something like this, especially maybe with food, maybe with anything, maybe products too. I want it to say on the label how many recalls this company has gone through. I want there to be a recall count.
A recall counter. That's basically what you want. You want a little label where it's like got a number on it, and the higher the number, the worse that situation
is. And you know what? After 10 years or 20 years, I don't know how often companies go through recalls. We'll have to make it statistically significant and not giving anyone a free pass. But maybe we'll expunge it after a period of time goes by to be fair. Don't scare anyone, right? If you earn the trust, you get it back. People make mistakes. But if you're a repeat offender or doing things like this, I mean, that's like an extreme thing. I mean, how can we not just have better laws? I mean, just protect people. If people are dying under these conditions
or passing out, it doesn't have to be
passing it. I mean, but they are dying. I mean, like it's easy. Yes. They are dying. I mean, it's gotten that bad. And then if you're handling something that could have mass effect on people, I don't know, man. This is crazy.
This last example, okay, and the reason I'm hitting this last example is because in this example, so we talked a lot, right, about how air conditioning is so important. We've got the UPS workers fighting for air conditioning. Everyone's talking about how air conditioning. Even in some workers in air-conditioned settings are getting too hot. McDonald's workers in LA walked off the job this summer as the air-conditioned kitchens were overwhelmed by the sweltering heat outside. This is a quote. There is an air conditioner in every part of the store, but the thermostat in the kitchen still showed it was over 100 degrees, said Maria Rodriguez, who has worked at the same McDonald's on Crenshaw Boulevard in LA for 20 years, but walked out on July 21, sacrificing a day of pay. It's been hot before, but never like this summer. I felt terrible, like I could pass out or faint at any moment. The owner of the store said in a statement, "We understand that there's an uncomfortable heat wave in LA, which is why we're even more focused on ensuring the safety of our employees inside our restaurants. Our air conditioning is functioning properly at this location." That's all.
Which is why we are offering them each a hot lunch, free on the house. Everyone gets a burger.
They all got double cheeseburgers. They sent them home. They said, here
piping hot cheeseburgers.
I'm just saying
why don't you take a fry? Grab yourself a fry.
I think that's so interesting. I mean, that's what's that thing is. You could fight for one thing, and everyone could be like, "Oh God, they got that. Finally, their world is better. They all their problems have gone away." Air conditioning is still having trouble battling when the outdoor temperature is around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It might not be enough, especially again the workers in the meatpacking industry facility. If you're dealing with 180 degree gear, or at least whatever sanitization equipment, having air conditioning might not be enough. It just might not be enough.
Air conditioner might not be, or there's also air conditioner sizes and the vent flows. And I mean, yeah, you got to be able to combat that. I'm sure if they had a bigger unit and had more intakes and vents in the back.
But yeah, but then I mean at that point, and think about it, every McDonald's in LA in California or in LA at that point, I mean, that's something that could be an issue for the power grid. I mean, there could be knock-on effects to increase the air conditioning to that degree that you actually could keep a hot McDonald's kitchen cool.
I guess we need
when
regulation.
The temperature is over 100.
You crazy. Have this type of oven that can put out, I don't know, it's like a BTU or something, or whatever those thermal units are.
Yeah, right. Well, for the BTU,
maybe there's like, if it's X hot outside, you can't have this much energy running inside. I mean, I don't know.
Or you just don't have workers work. I mean, we are getting to the point in this country where that might actually have to be the laws that are enacted. If you have temperatures of a certain amount outdoors, and you know that indoors the heat is going to be higher than that outdoor temperature, you might just have to call it. I mean, I know that no one wants to hear this because we live in this society where everything is about exponential growth and everything can go on forever and there's no limits to anything. There might be a limit here. As climate change increases and the people's healths are at risk, there might come a point where the legislation needs to be, if it's 110 degrees outside and indoors the temperature reaches 115, that's it. This company, this operation can no longer function, and its workers will continue to be paid, and everyone else has to you just have to send them home because
that would make sense. I mean, regardless of whether it's hot outside or whatever, if the inside temperatures, if what you're exposed to for any period of time is breaking 100, I would even say in the 90s, like but definitely breaking 100. Yeah, there needs to be some regulation. That's not.
Well, you would think, right? But the Biden administration, the Democrats, who are supposed to be the saviors, who are supposed to be the good guys, it's been 2 years and they have yet to draft legislation to address any of this. So, and we know the Republicans aren't going to do it because Texas, leader again in this situation, is like, screw everybody. They can figure it out for themselves. We can't hurt these job creators. People just got to pass out. You got to pass out. Manager sits in their air conditioned office away from anything that is overheating or too hot. Because that's just the way it is.
It's
Maybe you
so
should have just been
crazy.
born in a better, you know, better rung of the ladder. I don't know.
Keep working. Don't subject your kids to this.
All I want to say is also for the listeners, because we have international listeners, 100 degrees, because we're using that, is around 38°C. So what we're talking about here are temperatures above 38°C. Technically, it's 37.7, which is quite high. Especially, I mean, I feel like when you talk in Celsius, it feels even more oppressive. 100, it's like, I don't know. I always feel like Celsius is just like it just feels more serious. It's like, wow, 37°C. God, that's hot.
Nobody here knows what that means.
Yeah, well, that's how I feel about it. But that's crazy. That's crazy, and it's going to get worse. And I don't know what the solution is because we've got legislation in progress that has yet to be actioned, and
And it doesn't hit everyone equally. I mean, the folks that are feeling it, it's they're feeling it and they live in a certain area, and not everyone is feeling it in that way. So it's really hard for people to add this to the list of things to care about. But if you take a step back and you're like, climate change, the thing
yeah,
that's impacting us all is climate change. It could be the insurance for your home that we covered last time. It could be your work environment. It could be your natural resources around you. It could be the overwhelming of your utilities, whether that's sewer or power grid. I mean, the list will go on. It could be illness. It could be death. It could be so many things. I think what you'll take from this series, listeners, is that climate change has something for everyone. You want a flavor, it's got it for you. I mean, we may be touching on things here that you're like, that's terrible, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know anyone that's impacted by that. Keep listening. We'll get to one.
climate change is to the summer as Krampus is to Santa Claus. It's the Santa Claus you don't want. It's not, it's not delivering good presents. It's it's all bad. How's
It's
that?
all bad.
It's all bad.
Sure.
And then your neck of the woods.
All right.
What's going on?
Well, let's do it. Well, so I'm going to do a little bit more of climate awareness like we've been doing. But I want to discuss climate change's impact on biomes and ecosystems, which leads to loss of biodiversity among wildlife. So biomes are just ecosystems. Biomes are like huge pieces of land, huge areas, regions of a similar type of plant and animal life and weather and climate. And the ecosystems are like the little interactions within that. So just to give you an idea of what those two terms mean. It's probably a horrible definition. I'm sure the scientists that listen are screaming into their computer or headset, but that's the best I got.
No more than the UPS worker who's like, we have a union. We're strong. We have a union. Unionized.
It's the biggest in this country, you fool.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking climate change, talking ecosystems. It might be easiest to start with what people are familiar with. So for the longest time, we've heard that global warming and climate change could be seen in the loss of ice, which in turn would lead to higher sea levels. Well, that's happening. The projections were right. In fact, at this point, we can't reverse it. We can only stop it from getting worse. You may have heard that before, and it is true. The last few months, as Antoine said earlier, have been the warmest on record, and Antarctic sea levels reached record lows, about 17% below average. And it's not just the ocean's surface that's warm, but the whole world ocean is becoming warmer, and absorbing that energy will remain there for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. This is the kind of damage we have done. We are not reversing this. We are stopping it from getting worse. So,
Jimmy, are you telling me that the people who have studied this for a living, the academics with PhDs who have been sounding the alarm, the experts, as you may say, who have no political leanings necessarily in terms of like no prejudice in terms of their research. They're just simply trying to find the facts, as scientists tend to do. We're correct. They're right.
Go figure.
It's an issue
that we've been training, the institutions that we developed, the things we all learned in school, the greenhouse effect. Again, folks, we all learned about the greenhouse effect for, I'm going to say 12 years. And then all of a sudden we come out and folks are trying to convince you it's not real. Industries are trying to convince you it's not real. Think about that. Why would they do that? Why is that? Why
I don't know.
Would they contradict your education about a seemingly scientifically proven fact? I don't know.
Doesn't make much sense to me because the job creators are out there for us all.
The people that don't want you to have AC for your own good.
It's for your own good, honestly, because air conditioning makes people weak. Oh, and only the strong survive.
Hey, if everyone had air conditioning, we might not even know about climate change. Who would be uncomfortable?
If the founding fathers had air conditioning, there would be no America.
There you go. They would have sat home inside
they were sat
all
home.
day. No reason to go out.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well,
that's what slaves were for.
Different. All right. Well, it's not just the temperature that's changing. The color of the world's oceans are changing. Tropical ocean regions near the equator are turning greener because of climate change. The color change over the past 20 years is most likely due to ocean ecosystems changing, as ocean color is a result of marine life. Greener oceans have more algae, and warmer oceans prevent ocean layers from mixing, and that allows certain algae to dominate. Algae absorb CO2, and they photosynthesize, but algae expansion will have implications on ecosystems as the food chain will be altered in unknown ways. We don't know what's going to happen, folks. We're in uncharted territory. Humans have never been alive at a time like this, not anything like this. So this is going to get interesting fast. But even if the planet doesn't get any warmer than it is now, Greenland's melting ice is going to raise sea levels by 5 to 15 feet. How do we know? Well, a core sample was taken from an ice sheet and provided evidence that 400,000 years ago, during an interglacial period when temperatures were similar to what they are today, Greenland's ice loss raised the sea level by that much. Or another way of saying it, sea levels were about 40 feet higher back then, and 15 of that was from Greenland's ice melt. Now, it happened before. We seem to be running the experiment again, although at a much faster rate this time, and it's going to happen again. How is it faster this time? Well, back during that interglacial period called the Hoxnean, CO2 levels were at pre-industrial levels, around 280 parts per million. 280. Today, we're at 420 parts per million, meaning the ice was naturally melting at 280, but over a longer period of time. In fact, something like 30,000 years or something. Whereas today, we're at 420, and it's happening faster, and we're pumping more CO2 into the atmosphere and water every day. And how fast it's going to rise is still unknown. We don't know the cascading effects, the compounding effects of doing this at this rate. But scientists think that at least by 2100 or even sooner, that the sea levels could rise by 10 inches by something called the zombie ice, which is this ice that's no longer being replenished and is doomed to melt. Like it's, we have the seasons and it is not replenishing that ice. This stuff is just on its way out. Now,
is it called zombie ice because of the zombie worms that live within it, or the?
No, that's a different thing.
Oh, that's a different thing.
Okay. We'll get to that, but that's a different thing. That's a different thing. But okay. I honestly think it's just to get people's attention. But okay. Yeah. But so in a sad twist of a solution gone wrong, although I'm not sure what these people were thinking, a UN shipping rule meant to mitigate air pollution allows countries to use scrubbers to comply with a sulfur cap. So something that goes over the exhaust to scrub out the bad stuff. The problem is that this method discharges treated fuel exhaust into the ocean, which damages marine ecosystems.
Okay.
And I have read this thing like 6 times over because I'm like, what am I missing? Who made a mistake? And it's just like what it sounds. To protect the air, we polluted the ocean. There's no like, oopsie. It's just That's just what it is. Like, you're allowed to just dump. You're allowed. It's not even like, oh, we didn't address it. You're allowed to expel this into the ocean to protect the air. I mean, this is where we are. It's solutions like this that it's no wonder why coral reefs are declining rapidly. The most biodiverse ecosystem on this planet, we are cooking alive and starving it, either by bleaching, which is a period of extreme stress, where the reef is still alive, actually. It can recover. But then we also destroy reefs by direct thermal death. Like, we just heat it until we cook it and it starves instead. Two stats that are really sad.
It's 90. Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, can you just, I don't understand how you enact that kind of legislation. There has to have been.
Isn't that nuts? Like, that's crazy.
Was there a workaround? That's the thing. Is this now a loophole because of just bad legislation? Which I love to harp on bad legislation. It wasn't that you just said, all right, you cannot do this. You cannot pollute the air. And then there was no back. The back door was that the wink, wink, essentially, because I feel like that's how all legislators legislate these days, because their salaries are essentially paid in part by corporations. The wink, wink was, you can't pollute the air, but we know you'll just eject this into the ocean. I feel like was it that, or was there actually like a thing to say, you can't pollute the air, but we are going to actually put in the legislation, you are allowed to inject this into the ocean? Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're allowed to do it. That's like the method. You capture it through a scrubber, and then you dispose it in the ocean.
And that's the thing. Is that the science? Like, that's the process that has been developed for this, or like, is there somewhere else that it?
No, I don't know. Scientists are not on board with
it. Well, of course they're not.
No, they are not on board with this. This is polluting the marine environment. This is
like an industry standard, essentially. That's what I'm saying. Like, the industry itself.
Yeah, this is a thing. This isn't like we do it. A one-off offender. This is how they do it. Right. This was the solution, so that shipping companies, because the motivation, the incentive, the reason for this is that the governments, the world governments, this is a UN law, said we need to cut air pollution, emissions, shipping emissions, but into the air. No law, no initiative about ocean polluting, because no one's polluting the ocean, right? There was no polluting. So all it was legislation about stop polluting the air. You're polluting the air with sulfur emissions.
Yeah.
You can't go above this cap. Do whatever you have to do to stay below this cap. And so they do their thing with these scrubbers, and then they just dump them.
I mean, this is just like renewable energy with burning trash. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it's crazy. Bad legislation. It's people who are in charge or who are put in positions of power who have there are no experts. There are no I mean, there probably are scientists and experts who help with there has to be, in terms of these. There has to be. It blows my mind that you could get a body.
You're doing what I did. I read this thing like 6 times, and I'm like, what am I missing? Yeah. What am I missing? Like, this doesn't make sense. You get. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
It's because it was not a holistic approach.
But
it's like saying clean your room, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room, and then you shove everything under your bed or in your closet.
It's not like,
and you're like, the room's clean, and then you open up the closet and everything falls out. That's what this is.
This is that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. That's a very apt analogy for what's going on here. I guess it's not like you get into the UN by doing nothing. I mean, you have people with advanced degrees. You have people who are experts in certain aspects of something in order to get to the United Nations. Usually it's policy. Of some sort. And to craft some sort of policy like this, to simply say we have one goal and one mandate only, and that is to curb air pollution. And we're going to achieve this because we want it's oh my God, it's like having a toddler, right? Like when you tell your kid to do one thing.
We're idiots. We are idiots.
Well, it's just idiots. No, we're
so short-sighted. So short-sighted.
It feels facetious.
I just don't understand how that could be a thing. I mean, what do they think that? I'm assuming the most of the benefit of the doubt that I could wrap my head around to say that these people are not pure evil is that they were like, the ocean can take it. The ocean can take it. It's big. It's dense. 70% of this planet. It's deep. It can take it. It'll absorb it. That's the best I can do. Is that they genuinely thought Just like if we were like, yeah, we'll shoot it into the sun can take it. I don't know. Who knows if the sun can take whatever we throw at it? But is it something like that? Because I have nothing. I got nothing to go off of. My imagination is not that limitless. I cannot fathom how anyone would be like, hey, I found a loophole. We'll just pollute the ocean. Like, that's horrible. You're a terrible.
Oh, man. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So I got two stats for you around all of this stuff. 91% of coral reefs will now experience severe bleaching once every 10 years. And if you've ever seen this, I mean, folks, there's so many documentaries out there, but it's a sad thing. As someone who goes scuba diving and who's just like blown away by the wonders that are underneath our water, when you see them lifeless and bleached, it's when you know how vibrant they should be and teeming with life they should be. I mean, it'll make you cry. It's sad. So 91% now are severely bleached every 10 years. And then 99% of reefs will be experiencing severe bleaching at least twice every 10 years by 2036. So a little more than a decade away, folks. And it's going to more than double. That's great. Good job. So
well done. Well done.
Next up, let's dry off, grab your towel. Let's head on over on land. Within a few decades, the Amazon will reach a tipping point and shift from a rainforest to a grassy plain. Who doesn't love a savanna?
I mean, I know I do.
It's fantastic. Who wants to deal with a rainforest? I much rather have a grassy plain and just describe it to my grandkids.
Well, I mean,
I'll just describe the rainforest.
Rainforest.
Who needs to
gross.
See
got like
toucans and all that?
Like,
who don't need that? Yeah,
it's like snakes and stuff. I'd rather just a grassy knoll, something that's more manicured, a little bit more, eye pleasing to the Western eye, something that you could just imagine something that's relatively and not something that's not going to harm you, something that's not foreign, something that's
I'd rather I want to see it all
something.
Coming towards me, right? You want a level playing field. You want the grass to be so high, just tickling your knee, and you want to be able to see as far as the eye can see.
Ankle. I want like soccer field.
You want it manicured. So Antoine,
at that point, you might as well.
You want to put cows in there.
Yeah,
just to erase everything.
Everything. Yeah. Get the goats just let the cows. Let them get their methane gas off, and I just want it. I want it manicured. There. I want it. I want people to. I want the next World Cup to be held on the Amazon. In the Amazon rainforest, because it's so easy. The fields are there at that point because everything's dead. There are no trees. Nothing's oppressive of trees. We got rid of all the medicine, anything that we might have been able to glean from it. It is just grass as far as the eye can see at ankle length, perfect pitch. And then we just have the World Cup. Just have 32 teams come out there and play in the Amazon. Be fantastic.
That's great. I mean, personally, I would love to be alive when we turn something real into a myth. That's fantastic. Yeah. I want to be a part of that. I want to say, I want my descendants to be like, was the rainforest real? Was that a real thing? Describe that again. That sounds crazy. All that life, all these big trees, like all this stuff. It rained a lot there. What is that? What's that? It wasn't acid rain. You didn't hurt when you went outside. Tell me about that again, Papa. Yeah.
I want them to watch the movie Fern Gully and just think, God, what an imagination. How did they come up with all of that? I mean, the fairies. I want them to think I want them to realize that to put the fairies in the same mythological context as the forest, as the trees itself. Yeah.
Wait, you're telling me the trees were real, but the fairies weren't? Who the hell would believe that?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we're going
People
for.
Used to have wings. It sounds much more plausible than giant grass. What's giant grass?
I want both to be as implausible. That's exactly right.
That's fantastic.
I want it to be where Fern Gully is a slight documentary on some level.
So the rainforest is critical, folks, all kidding aside. It's unique plant and animal life. As Antoine mentioned, we get medicine from all that biodiversity, and probably we lost so much medicine. Its influence has influence over global weather patterns. It's just, it's the rainforest, folks. Go look it up. It does stuff for us. Scientists say that 3/4 of the rainforest can no longer recover from droughts, logging, and fires. it lost its resilience. So congrats, everyone. We broke the rainforest. Good job. Not to mention the rainforest.
Did we give it air conditioning? It feels like we gave it air conditioning. This weakness, it feels like we air conditioned the rainforest.
I'm assuming there's a slight more breeze with every tree that we knock down, less obstruction.
Well, that's why it's getting weak. You see,
they get the cross breeze now. They get the cross breeze. Just like my mom always used to say, open windows on opposite side of the house. You get the cross breeze. If you deforest from both sides, you're just doing everyone a favor.
You breed weakness. Air conditioning and cross breeze breeds weakness. You got to be resilient. I don't know. I don't know if society will ever learn. I don't know.
So I was going to say the rainforest is another carbon sink, things that capture carbon for us. And if we lose more trees and soil, we're releasing and no longer capturing billions of tons of CO2, right? So now we've kind of covered some of these biomes and ecosystems, but what's it actually doing to our wildlife? Now, this is an expansive topic, and I'm not going to go through it in any detail. There are tons of documentaries, much cooler, that you can go and watch and, see the animals before they're all dead. But in brief, I'll represent a little bit of everything here. So one thing is it's bringing back things that we might not want. Antoine alluded to it. A roundworm found in Siberian permafrost was reanimated after 46,000 years, the time of the woolly mammoths, and began reproducing more than 100 generations of new worms. And all it took was a little bit of food, a little bit of water to get that little thing moving again. It didn't take much, people. They thawed, they ate, they reproduced, and now they're back.
The story is only interesting if the cover story is that it reproduced, but really what happened is it entered the scientist that discovered it, alien style, reproduced within its body, and right now we're struggling to keep it contained, but we just had to give out a nice one of those hallmark cover stories to not have everyone fear for their lives at the start of the zombie apocalypse. Well, it is creepy. It is a creepy, I get it from a scientific standpoint. It is really intriguing, but as a human, it is incredibly creepy to think that something that old. I mean, part of me wants. Imagine if you could. Of course, it can't think, but imagine if you could. Not that I can't think, but I mean, what I'm saying. Imagine if you could project what it saw 46,000 years ago onto a screen. How cool would that be to be able to see the Earth at that time through a living object that was around at that time? I mean, how cool is that? That's a cool story.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
The issue
it didn't come alive and kill you.
See, the thing is, going back to how these things usually work, because people will be like, it's a natural cycle, and not talk about the rate. That's what you will always hear. It's not that it wouldn't happen again. It's the rate. And something like the permafrost would take thousands and thousands of years, if not more, to transition. And it is happening at record lightning speed with us. So when you're talking about, a little bit of permafrost melting there, a little bit here, and gradually these things will become unearthed, and whether they reanimate or not is a different story. But we're going to get them all at once. And I just don't know what that does. I mean, your own scientists are only finding what they're looking for or where they are. This stuff's melting all over the place, people. You don't know what's being unleashed. And that's my next point. In Tibetan permafrost that's now melting, ancient 15,000-year-old viruses have now been uncovered, never seen before. They're back. They're back. And again, that's only because we found it. God knows what else is being released, entered into animals, and then someday spread to us. Now, the scientists think that it's going to be helpful, just like I'm sure the worm is. They're going to learn how we might be able to survive climate change by how this thing managed to survive. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the jury's out with what else is going to happen. I mean, what is it? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, or something like that. What? I'm not diminishing science. I love science, but this is what they have their hands on. Great, work with that. I'm worried about everything else that's being released that we can't possibly contain. We don't know what else is being unleashed into the wild right now.
I mean, we make a massive assumption because we as human beings, we always assume the worst. That's part of our survival instinct. But at the end of the day, a virus that existed 15,000 years ago, it could be weak sauce. We could come up. It could come into the world
Yeah, because
today.
animals were puny back then.
Well,
And what did they? What kind of resilience did they have?
yeah, these are things we assume.
They only walked around for 65 million years.
These
What
are
did
things we
they
assume.
know?
We assume that everything was stronger. Again, we don't know. A saber-tooth tiger could come alive today, and its bones could be so fragile. It just like
Yeah, that
we
makes
don't know.
sense.
We
That
don't
makes
know.
sense. You don't know.
We
It
could be
reminds me of
surprised.
with that guy, Galaxy Quest, the extra guy. I think his name is Guy.
Yeah, it's Guy. Well, it's
He was
not
like,
really.
and one of his lines is like, "You don't know. You don't know."
You say we don't know. We don't know. These things look majestic, and then they could die off of it at the first sneeze that they come across, and they just
I'm
drop
sure
dead.
that's I actually think the whole asteroid thing is being contested now because they just think it was a strong gust.
It might have been.
Yeah.
We don't know.
All right. So getting away from those more insane things, mosquitoes are on the move. Everyone loves mosquitoes.
I love them.
Nature's cuddler. And with them comes malaria.
Nature's blood transfusion.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like to share? I mean, I love it.
Takes my blood.
Nature's charity. Nature's charity.
Yeah. It's a blood bank kind of thing.
So typically malaria-carrying mosquitoes thrive in lower elevations across South America and Africa, but now they're climbing hills and mountains to infect communities that never had to worry about them before. Mammals are also noticing climate change, or at least are mentally impacted by its wake. Extreme weather and natural disasters have been found to make monkeys age faster due to traumatic stress resulting from disrupted food sources like high winds stripping all the leaves off the trees and then starving to death. Fantastic stuff. And even our beloved emperor penguins, the focus of films such as March of the Penguins and Happy Feet, have been added to the endangered species list due to climate change. So again, big round of applause to everyone. They live on sea ice in Antarctica, and we've melted it all away. It's great. Great job.
They can't just swim? Can't just swim forever?
They're lazy. Animals have gotten spoiled with all their homes.
It's weak sauce. 25, 50, 40,000 years in the future, people are going to be like, oh, the majestic emperor penguin, they must have been so strong. It's like they couldn't even survive an afternoon without any ice to just rest on. They couldn't just swim forever.
Do they even lift, bro?
Get those gains. It's the most Jersey thing I think you've ever said.
Just start darting them with steroids from helicopters.
Leg day. They missed leg day. And next thing you know, they're extinct. That's their own fault.
Those flabby flippers. All right. So where are we headed? Well, as biomes continue to change, we get a glimpse of where we're headed through a 2 million year old core sample that details an ecosystem that's in our near future. It's the time of mastodons, reindeer, and birch trees thriving in lush polar regions, areas so far north that today there is no life. We're lush polar regions where all of these animals who we never actually thought made it that far up. We thought it was always too extreme. Core samples that are now telling us that used to be very lush, and that kind of tells you how hot the rest of the planet was. So that should give you an indication of what we're headed towards. So let's be clear about some solutions to this climate crisis, but brace yourself. They are extreme because we've put ourselves into an extreme situation. So what do we have to do to fix climate change? Sorry, let me restate that. What do we have to do to not let climate change continue to get worse? Because we ain't fixing it, folks. Well, more than 40% of Earth's land surface must be conserved to stop the biodiversity crisis. 40%. Italy and Sweden have announced a whopping $500 million in investments in developing nations, but that ain't going to do it, folks. We need immediate conservation to our parks, oceans, and forests. Industrial farming, including palm oil fields and beef production, need to be addressed.
$500 million? That's like It's like what Google makes in like an afternoon. I mean, it's insulting. That's crazily hilarious.
That's where we are. That's how serious we are. That's how serious we are about all this. That's where we are. At least they did. And then we didn't do anything. So
Yeah.
what do we, I mean, we're mocking them, and what did we do? So there we
Guess
are.
it's more, yeah, more than nothing.
All right, what else? Rewilding is necessary, and it's not just letting old buildings and unused train tracks being reclaimed by nature. It means removing dams, building tunnels to reconnect migration pathways severed by roads, and reintroducing predators like wolves to help balance the ecosystem. Folks, if you're interested in learning more about that, quick plug. We have a whole Wolf Saga playlist. Go check it out on YouTube. Then, after we do these things, most importantly, we leave it alone. We don't touch it. Minimal human involvement. Let nature recalibrate itself. Now, when it comes to the ocean and saving coral reefs, that will require rapidly reducing and eliminating greenhouse gas emissions and identifying critical locations to preserve, right? So we got to be very strategic about this, and we have to make the commitment. But know what you're up against. I mean, we all know that probably none of that is going to happen. But just to kind of drive that home, here's a Republican spending bill for the Interior Department that was recently put up for a vote. It blocked grizzly bear recovery, removed Endangered Species Act protections for the gray wolf, and cut funding for the National Park Services and several other things. Basically, everything that I just listed there, the Republicans have defunded or removed it. So I will leave you with this parting thought. Imagine what we've lost through deforestation, coral bleaching, and climate change already. The land we developed, ecosystems lost, species extinguished, or to put it another way, imagine if we inadvertently eradicated tomatoes through deforestation or climate change. What would the world be without tomatoes, Antoine? You sit with that.
I gotta sit with what would the world be like without tomatoes?
Yeah. What if through all of this, we eradicated tomatoes by accident? We hadn't discovered them yet. They're out there, just something waiting to be discovered. And we never got all the deliciousness that tomatoes give us.
So what a horrible, as a New Yorker, what a horrible existence. Because then it just means that all we would ever have is the white pizza. So everything would just be, all pizza would just be this dry, cheesy
No pizza,
whiteness.
no pasta
No, you'd
sauce.
have pizza. It's just be the white pizza. I don't know
Would
if
it
anyone's
ever
ever
have
had a
developed?
white pizza.
Would it have developed? Would it ever have caught on? Would
Of course
people
it
be
would.
like, I don't know.
No, it'd just be the white pizza. Everything
You
would
wouldn't
just be white
get you wouldn't
pizza.
get everything that you got now. You wouldn't have ketchup. You wouldn't have ketchup.
Yeah, we could do without ketchup.
I
But
don't know, man. This is a miserable life that you're painting right now. This is a miserable life that you've already accepted. and I
well, everything would
refuse
just be
to accept
Alfredo,
it.
right?
That's an American thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm just saying that well, it would have been a world thing because
It would have profoundly changed human evolution. Prove me wrong.
all food would be just white bland food, just no coloring whatsoever. Without the tomato, you're right. I mean, the tomato is it's an essential facet to our society. Is it a fruit or a vegetable?
I think it's a fruit.
I mean, it should be a fruit by all classification. It should be a fruit.
I think it is.
Anyway, go on. Share
No, that's
actually,
it.
you know, oh, that's it.
That's it. That's it.
So Google 2020 profits 2020 $60 billion. So
Wow.
we said 500 million. Italy said what was it, 500 million? You said?
And Sweden. That's combined.
That was combined. So 500 million. And
To
Google
mitigate
made
climate
60,
damage.
60 billion.
Yeah.
I think that's.
We're serious about this, folks.
I think
We're serious.
Does that come to, my math might be great. I think that's like 0.83% of what Google earned in a year.
We are serious about climate change. Everyone is taking this very seriously.
I just think the people, I honestly, whenever something happens, I put it in the context of a corporation's profit in a year, not profit across years or profit across the last decade, just 1 year. 1 year, how much did that corporation make? So whenever a government initiative comes out and people are scrutinizing it and yelling to the high moon about taxes and what we're doing, blah, 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 this, and that, I just, to me, as a sanity check, I just put it in terms of a corporation, one company. I say, how much did that company make in that year? And usually it's something that dwarfs whatever everyone's up in arms about, like this. I think it's around, I think it's 0.83%. is what you set to fight climate change. Because here's the thing, as the earth burns, and as you can't go to work because the air conditioning units cannot compete with the temperature of the city in which you live, you need to remember that you can go online and search for anything you want. You could search anything. You could use Chrome for free. You've got your Gmail for free. Your kids can't go play outside. You can't go to work. Society might be crumbling, but at the end of the day, you could search the internet, and that's important.
You can compare air conditioners, fans
that are out of stock because they'll most likely be out of stock. If you're looking for an air conditioner,
probably not put together very well because the people in the factories couldn't see.
Well, yeah, that might be one thing. That might be one thing. But and if you are lucky enough, well, no, if you're lucky enough to get a unit. Most of the time, just like when we just had this recent bout of the wildfires coming down from Canada, what was the first thing everyone was trying to buy? Air purifiers. Those of us who had purifiers, because they're crazy, weird, what do you call it? Preppers, like the people who have that prepper mentality, and they just got air purifiers throughout their house.
Yeah, dust is no joke, folks.
Yeah,
your house is producing dust.
Fine, but
you check out that filter after running those things. You should get one.
Most people were out there looking for an air purifier, and guess what? Amazon, the infinite master of all things you could buy, you're SOL.
I was charging $5 a head in the neighborhood for people to just stick their head in and take a breath, and then I got them out.
That's some good capitalism right there.
Yeah. I mean, I was really close to just bottling it and just selling the can.
You should have.
Spaceball style.
Spaceball style. That's right. Get that thing in a can. Sell it to your neighbors. You're like, you want your kids not to have cancer? Here, buy some by Jamie's sweet air.
Oh God.
And for sale. Actually, you'll have the kids. You have your kids out in the corner because they can work legally without
there's no protections.
That's right. And you don't have to sign off on it. So they can just go out because kids want to work on their own. The parents are the ones who get in the way of it. Now that your kids are free, they probably would have stolen your air and started selling it in the street,
And the best news is I don't even have to go out there to yell at them if they start dragging. I'm in the air conditioner inside. I can knock on the window, give them a little sign. It's good.
You gave them life. The best thing they can do is work for that sweet profit.
Is sell my air.
Sell your air. Sell your air.
That's great. All
right. Yeah. It's another banger, people. We are about the climate this month, this season of the Retraction podcast. Jamie, tell them where they can find all this amazingly uplifting and fun information on a weekly basis.
Folks, those new clips, like you said, weekly, check them out on Fridays, but we also got clips coming out all during the week. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitter, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
And with that, my great folks, stay cool out there. Retraction out.